What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to put this in the top of the show. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com to get your ex-drinking buddy merch. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, we're coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Grab me your beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the show, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, and reminisce about getting in trouble and crazy stories. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with a friend and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception! I almost fell back. All the way from New York City, Espi, Rivadeneira.
Hi.
Making your second appearance on the show.
Yeah, it's my second time.
We've got cameras now. Now
That's
we're
crazy.
live.
Yeah.
It's grown a lot since the first
That's
time.
awesome.
Is it? Is it? No,
It
is.
is.
It's pretty
it's
awesome.
good. Yeah.
It's really cool because now I look back. Everyone told me I need to be doing video from like when I first started the podcast. And now I look back on these old clips where I would use like the cover art and like put the sound behind it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so horrible.
Yeah.
It's like when you look back on your old stand-up and you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
And now everything's like so professional. Tell everybody, plug everything.
My Instagram is Espi Rivadeneira, ESPIRIVADENEIRA. Same with Twitter, Facebook. It's all the same. YouTube. Espi Rivadeneira.
Not a lot of Espi Rivadeneiras out there.
No. But I kind of wanted just Espi, but some company has that.
Oh, really?
Already on Instagram. Because
Okay.
I'm like, that would be so much easier. And then I remember my mother like flipping out because I used to put when I started open mics, I would put Espi Noel because it's my middle name.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my mother that. She was like, they can learn how to say your last name. Like, they'll be fine. And I was like, okay. So I just...
Good on mom, because that's absolutely right. I mean, I know Christina Pajitsky goes by Christina P now.
Yeah.
Because it was just, Pajitsky was just so hard. And I'm sure when you're, because, you know, everyone knows you in the city, but I'm sure when you go outside the city, it can be...
Yeah, everyone's like, but no, everyone knows how to say it now.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah, it's just, it's a little Spanish flavor.
A little...
Hey. So I wanted to have you on. You are a return guest, like we said. If you didn't listen to Espi's first episode, go back and check that out. We talk about you getting into comedy, going to the Austin scene. We talked about a trip to Puerto Rico, was it?
Argentina.
Argentina?
And Peru. Yeah, Peru too.
Peru. It was Peru where you
Yeah.
were jumping on the roofs of the
Yeah.
buildings. Yeah.
Dude, I could have died.
Yeah, you could have. A few times.
I could have died a lot.
I wanted to have you on today, one, because I wanted to talk to you about Edinburgh, because you went there
Yeah.
for the festival,
Yeah.
and that was a while ago, but I wanted to kind of catch up with you on that. And then also, you and I are both sober.
Mm-hmm.
You don't drink, and neither do I. Well, you don't do anything, correct?
No, sometimes I take mushrooms, but that's like once every 6 to 8 months.
Yeah,
I really don't.
It's interesting. Let's just start there. So it's interesting you bring that up because the thing California sober, I really am not a huge fan of. Like,
I don't like that either.
Just say you don't drink. Like,
Yeah.
don't say, because what I'm doing and what you're doing are very, not you, but you know what I mean. It's like, those are two different, like if I'm stressed out or if I'm like can't sleep or if I can't just like go do, like I have to figure it out.
I don't smoke weed. I don't like weed. I don't do anything. Like I said, I'll just take a little bit of shrooms, maybe. But I try to figure out all of my stuff beforehand anyways.
Well, and that's the thing too, where it's not like hey, I'm stressed out, I need an escape. Like the shrooms are almost like because I've talked to a lot of people about this in sobriety and elsewhere, where it's like, oh no, you should do that just for your own mental stability. Like, it's good for you to like open up and like
it's different.
Experience it.
It makes you think different, and that would like because you had known the past couple of weeks I was like very stressed.
Yes,
and it crossed my mind where I was like, well, I could take some mushrooms and they might chill me out. And then I was like, no, because it's not going to be good because I'm going through all this like turmoil right now. So I'm just going to wait and try and figure this out. And they are more for like just opening, like seeing things in a new way, or I don't know. The first time I took them, I was like severely depressed.
How did that go?
It was amazing. And
was it? I always get so nervous because people are like, you have to be in the right mindset. And I'm like, oh, well, my brain's broken. Like, I'm never in the right mindset.
I was like honestly, I was like suicidal. And everybody was like, well, do something.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to take pills. And I was like, I'm very anti-pills and like medicine. And then one of my friends was like,
pills. Well, I don't think you realize how we take
that
pills.
was what I would be, because I've never taken them, because I'm like, I would be insane.
Yeah.
Like my drinking and the smoking and everything. So I'm like, no, I can't do that. And then everyone was like do you know Nick Tillelli?
No.
Oh, he's another comic, but we were talking about this after. He was like, yeah, shrooms find you when they're like, and he's like he doesn't seem like he would say something like that.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny because I was like, that's what it felt like. Because a lot of my close friends were telling me about them. And I was always scared my whole life. I was like, I'm just never going to do them. And then my uncle like gave me a book about them.
Oh,
and was
really?
like, read about it, do your own research.
Figure it out.
He took them though. And he was like, they helped me a ton.
Well, yeah, hallucinogens have done a ton for people in addiction and sobriety and all sorts of stuff, between ayahuasca and then mushrooms. I know Burr was talking about it. He took mushrooms like 6 months ago, and he was like, I figured out so much about my life, like where my anger comes from, why I'm so quick to jump on people. Like, and so I've been told about it.
Wait, have you not taken them?
I've never done any psychedelic. I've done all sorts of drugs.
I think they would be very helpful.
That's
for
what
you.
everybody said.
Because you and I are very similar.
Yeah, but now I'm on this like completely sober train.
It is, but I still feel like I'm sober. And the thing about the mushrooms
I agree
like,
with you. I'm not being like, oh, it's a fake sober over here.
No, because they also are the first drug. Like I went to LA however many months ago, and I was smoking weed, and it was like a problem.
Yeah.
And I started getting high for like 4 days straight, and I was like, what the hell is going on? This was like, and I was like, because I was like, oh, I'm sober. And I was like, oh, you still have a problem. And then I like stopped, and I talked to my therapist about it. But that was so weird, because I was like, I don't like weed, but I like got back into it.
It's a weird thing, the escapism of whatever it is. Because like and I discovered this with my coming in and out of sobriety, was there were like not sober bars. That's not what they were labeled, but they were like kava bars and stuff like that. And
I've been
in
to
Florida,
the
there's a lot of them. And shout out to Sienna. She owns one of the best ones in Jacksonville. Well, now two. They have 2 locations now. But it was one of those things where she was super like friendly to the comedy scene, and she was dating a comic, I think, when all this first happened. So they started having open mics there, and then she just kind of really liked hanging with the comics, and she was very cool about it. But we would always go there, and she's like, oh, try this like kava, or try this kreta. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like,
You didn't try it.
No, absolutely. Because I'm like, you don't get it. Like, if you tell me like, oh, take this, it'll chill you out, then I'm going to take
Kava's the problem.
all of it. I'm going to take all of them.
I took it like a year and a half ago. I guess I'm not really sober. No, because
I know what we're talking about.
I like tried it, and then I hated it, because I was like, oh, this is it felt like alcohol, but like slower or something. It was very strange. And then
the kava, and then they have the Delta 8 too, and they're like, oh, it's not really weed, but it still gives you the same effect. And I'm like, then why am I like, I'm not, I'm like, I'm not going to touch it.
And it made me so weird. And then I went back the next night, and I don't like spending money. Like, I'm the cheapest. My friends were like, you're like a squirrel. I spent over $100 on this stuff in 2 days. And I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, you didn't come here, and I'm just fucked up. And a couple of my friends were like, dude, what is going on?
Well, we had people in the halfway house, because you can get kratom as a supplement, like GNC or whatever, and it has a similar opioid effect. But you have to take, everyone's like, oh, it relaxes you. Well, if you take a shit ton, you'll like start nodding out, and it's very similar to like heroin or oxys and stuff like that. Not as intense, but you can still like almost scratch a little bit of that itch. So we had people who would get a 60-day supplement, so 60 pills, and they would take the whole bottle in a day. And like people started getting rushed to the hospital for like kidney failure, and like their livers were shutting down, because they're just taking all these, capsules of, it's probably 90% nothing just like garbage powder and then 10% whatever's in it. And they were just like taking hundreds of them.
That was what they said. Kava can like mess up your kidneys and stuff too. Cause I felt weird. And then my pee was like a weird yellow. My buddy that took it with me was like, we were like, it was just so weird the next day too. And I felt bad. And I'm like, I can't take anything, but the mushrooms are the only thing that I've taken. And it can be like the first time I took it, it was amazing and everything. And it was so fun. And I just didn't want to take it again.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And I don't know why. And it helps. And that's what I was reading in the book too. It was like, oh, it's great for addicts. Like it helps people to stop smoking. I don't know why. Cause I had like the most fun time, but I think it kind of taught me like I'd been depressed for years. And I'm not saying like, Derek's always like, you're not giving yourself enough credit with your sobriety. Like you put all the work in and you say it's the mushrooms. And I'm like, yeah, I have put in all this work. But when I took the mushrooms, it like kind of like catapulted me further along where I was like, oh, I can be happy. Because for a while I was like, I just don't think I know how to be happy anymore.
Well, and you and I talked about that because that was something, because you stopped drinking and got sober without a program of any kind.
Yeah.
And I think we might have touched on it the last time you were on the show, but it blew my mind because we were talking about, you turn to me and you go, have you heard of this thing? It's like a big blue book. Like one of my sober friends gave it to me. And I go, yeah, the big book of AA. And you're like, you've heard of it? And I go, yes, my whole life is predicated on that book. And you were like, oh, I just opened it. And I'm like, don't you have like 7 years sober? And you're like, well, yeah, I haven't had a drink in like a really long time. And I was like, how the fuck is that possible? But then you also, in the last couple of weeks, because we've been talking a little bit more with everything going on, you also had informed me, you were like, yeah, before the mushroom thing, you were like, yeah, it was just like, it was shit. Like I was depressed and like things were really shitty. And that's something that
I was depressed for years, even till I got here. Someone last night was telling me like a comic that I met 2 years ago. I don't see her that often. She saw me and she knew I had stuff going on now because I was like talking about it on stage. And she was like, I know you're like not happy right now, but she was like, you're so much better than you were like 2 years ago.
Really?
And that was nice to hear because I felt shitty lately. And then, but even like, it's funny because I felt really depressed the past couple of weeks, but I have like no interest in like, normally I would feel like this and fall back into smoking cigarettes. And like, I was like, I just know it's not going to be good. Like it is, I feel like I have improved, but I do think from that mushroom trip onward. And then I've taken them probably like 5 or 6 times total in the past 2 years.
I was going to say, okay, so in the past 2 years. Because when I first thought about getting sober at 22, I remember I was done with football and I was just drinking way too much. And a friend of mine that I worked with, she was like, hey, why don't you come to a meeting with me? Because she wasn't, she was still coming out with us after work and stuff, but she wasn't drinking. Now, given she was very young as well, so it was very much one of those things that I see with a lot of much younger people who are like in and out of AA. Like, you know, they get a DUI or they text their ex-girlfriend. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, they do something stupid and they go, okay, I drink too much. I need to go to meetings. And we were kind of in that world of like, we had no intention, I don't think, of getting sober for the rest of our lives, but we knew that something was getting a little out of control. And I remember at 22 going to that first meeting and just crying, being like, you guys are right. Like, I'm out of control. And I was super hungover, obviously, because it was the next day. And then like a week later, I went to another meeting and I was like, oh, never mind. Like, like these people are fucking psychos, like talking about like killing people in car accidents and, you know, all this crazy stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm not, like, I still work a job and like, I'm still in, like going to college. Like, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Right.
But then fast forward, 8 years and I was like, oh no, this is really bad. And so I was in and out of AA that whole time, rehabs and stuff like that. But when I finally was like, I have to get sober, my first reaction was I called my sponsor. And then I started going to meetings and I started working the steps. And that to me is really opened up because I've had other comics that don't drink. And I'm not saying this to be like, to protect you. Like literally, it's not you. It's other comics that don't drink. Who are like, yeah, I have to quit drinking, but I'm so miserable all the time. And I was like, well, have you tried AA? And they're like, no, that's not for me. And I go, well, take it from me. Like, I can prove to you that I've been super depressed. Like, I've got scars all over my body to prove it. Like, this is the only thing that's ever helped me. And it's so interesting when I meet people like you, because you haven't had a drink now in, what is it, almost
7 years.
7 years? Yeah. So it's bananas to me, because you're just like, yeah, I just stopped drinking. Like,
well,
I knew
that
I couldn't
wasn't
drink
that
anymore.
I did it by myself, though, because I don't know if I had mentioned this. I used like an online app, which was similar to AA, but you would like write about how you were feeling.
Okay.
I think now it's called Daybreak. Now you have to pay for it, which is bullshit. But it was free. It used to be called Hello Sunday Morning. And they would like, it was neat because my dad has like beef with AA. My dad's been sober for like 20 something years. I don't think he liked, I mean, there's so many AA meetings now. He didn't like how religious it was. And
well, there's so many
like,
different kinds of it now, too.
And I think,
I've been to a couple where I'm like, if this was my first meeting, I would never come back.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so even like people I know that are getting sober that are like, oh, I'm not like that, where it's like that level. And it's like, no, but you can still have a problem. I'm like, you're an alcoholic if you think you have a problem with it or things are getting out of control. But I was doing.
The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking.
Yeah. I did Hello Sunday Morning. So I would write every day how I was feeling. And it was kind of cool because you could see other users like all of their blogs. And so I started comparing, and I was like learning about the brain. I was like, what are the effects of alcohol on the brain? Because I was like, why do I? So I was trying to figure out like, why did I feel so bad? And then I was in therapy for a while in college, but my therapist was free in college, so I only had therapy for like 2 years, and then I was like, all right, I was just kind of on my own.
Ride this out, yeah.
And then I would try to like, I mentioned to you before, I'd meditate like 40 minutes a day, because I was like, this just isn't an option for me anymore, because I would do crazy stuff when I was drinking.
Go back and listen to that first episode.
That's what I was like, I would be dead if I had kept drinking. Like, there's no way.
Well, and that's the clip, too, because I think it was probably one of the funniest moments, but there's so much truth in it where you talk about, you know, your friends are getting married and having these weddings and having kids, and you're like, I'm fucked up, like, all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you're out of your mind if you think I'm going to do something like that. And then for you to come to the realization, because it's interesting, what you're saying about the app is it's very much... The whole point of AA is to have a fellowship, to have a collection of people to hold you accountable, and also to like, you know, like if I'm helping someone else get sober or stay sober, then I in turn am staying sober. It's all service, unity service. So it's interesting because through the app, it seems very similar. Instead of going to a meeting hall where you're like, you know, Brennan, alcoholic, you know, things have been rough today. You're just on your phone and you're like, oh, this person's having a shitty day. This person's having a great day. I wonder what they did instead.
That was what I kept comparing, because it felt like the first couple of months were shit. And then you would see like similar things where it was starting to get better, and then it would dip again, like their mood. And I was like, okay, so this is
so
like
you were actually
long-term.
following like specific
I was
people
following
because
I was like desperate to get sober, because I had tried before, but I kept messing up, and I was like, I need to get better. So I was doing whatever I could, like just reading on the brain. And then I just kept like a tight schedule.
Yeah.
Like my parents were always like, if you don't have enough stuff to do, like that's, I don't know what the saying is. It's like idle hands do the devil's work or whatever. Yeah. So I was
That's
just
the
staying
saying. You knew
busy.
it. You knew it right off
My mom would say it. She still says it all the time. And then even my rabbit, Gia's like working all day on stuff. My mom was like, oh, she knows to stay busy. I'm like, she's a rabbit.
I think technically it's idle hands are the devil's playground, but
yeah. Something like that.
I know people are listening and they're going to be like, that's actually not what the saying is. It's actually playground.
And you're like, all right, take it easy.
Relax, guys. Relax. Chill.
But I just kind of was like, okay. And my dad, I'm very lucky. I saw him because he was like two different people. Mm-hmm. So when I was a kid, I was like, oh, I guess my dad's just really angry and aggressive. And then until I was like 7, all right, I was like, I didn't know.
I so want to use that for the clip, but I don't want to put your dad on blast like that.
My dad's such a good guy.
I guess my dad's just real angry and aggressive.
But then he was like totally different. He's like the most stable person. Yeah. And it was crazy. Like everything got better. Like when I was a kid, he was just fat. Now he's like ripped. He's in his 60s and he's like ripped. My friends were like, how the hell is he like in such good shape? I'm like,
because he's an addict, baby.
Yeah. So he he got sober, and then like he kept getting the job promotions after, and it was over years, of course, but I was just like, oh, this is crazy. So I think seeing
It's
that
insane.
helped me.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually a really good point because I had never seen it firsthand anywhere.
Right.
So that's actually, I want to, let's unpack this a little because this is super interesting to me because you saw it from the age, until you were 7, you were like, oh, I guess he's just mad a lot.
Yeah.
And I saw the same thing with my ex-stepdad. When him and my mom got together, I was like 12 or 13, and he was this two different people thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's banana because as an alcoholic, I never see myself like that. I'm always like, oh,
You
I'm
don't
always
know.
just Brennan because I don't see it.
Yeah.
But literally, after one sip of beer,
You change.
He'd be like, he would be like, "Hey guys, let's hang
Yeah.
out. Like let's go do something." And then after like a bunch of beer or a bunch of shots, then he'd get like super aggressive and like scream at us and like throw shit and hit us and stuff. But it was weird because it was one of those things where it was just like, even if he was drinking non-alcoholic beer, it was like that. I like the mindset of like, okay, we're partying now.
Yeah.
And then like I'd see him like on a day where he just didn't really drink that much the night before, and then he had to get up at 6 a.m. to go to work, and he'd walk out of the bedroom, get his coffee, like we wouldn't say 2 words to each other, and then he'd come home, still wouldn't say anything, shower, and as soon as he got out of the shower and had that first sip of beer, he's like, "Brenna, what's going on, man?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're completely different people."
Yeah.
Like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. But as an alcoholic, I never saw myself like that.
Well, you don't know because that's what I would tell my friends. I'm like, I'm basically the same. And they're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not. And I always thought it was like the same thing. And I was always like, I was so shy for most of my life. And I wanted to be confident. And now I feel like I am very confident and like I can talk to people. But I'm like, that's after years of...
Well, and it's working on it too, because there are times on stage, especially at shows, like if there's a crowd and stuff where I portray this like, hey, now we're going, like, let's fucking go. But if you see me, and I know you know this firsthand, and I know it about you as well. Like if you see me just out and about, like I'm not, unless I know you, like you've been on the show or we've talked or something, or if I feel like you're taking comedy as seriously as I am, that's like another big thing. Or if you're sober, like I just won't talk to you.
Oh, I don't. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I go
it's
off
like,
on people because I'm very. I mean, I think because of my drinking and stuff and who I used to hang out with, I hung out with trash.
Yeah,
and
horrible
I dated
people.
Scumbags, and so I've been
And I
through
used
a
to be
lot.
one of
That's
those
what I
people,
mean.
yeah.
So I've like I have like deep trust issues still, and my friends
Shouts out.
I love. And
Trust issues,
my
baby.
people, like, yeah, that's the thing. I have to know someone for a while. I think because you and we talked about the sobriety thing. If I see someone at a show and I'm like, okay, they're working, that's different. But for the long, like, if I don't know someone, I'm like, you can get the fuck out of my face. I'm not nice.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm scared. Honestly, I don't know.
It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way where it's like I try to be, obviously, I'm a little different, being, almost a foot taller and 110 pounds bigger than you. But so it's not, you have to be a little aggressive, not even a little. Sometimes you have to be overtly
Well, also,
aggressive.
there's a lot of weird dudes in
That's what I'm
comedy.
saying, because you got to be like, I'm fucking putting the line in the sand right now.
Yeah.
For me, I can be a little, because I'm obviously not worried about someone like following me after a mic.
Right.
So for me, I can be like a little more jovial, where it's like, yeah, all right, man, and then like kind of walk away. But there are certain times where, a lot of times where I show up to a mic, like we showed up to that mic a couple days ago, and we were all sitting in the back, and you're like, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
Because it's just random people, and it's so weird because it's like, we're out here, I know you're out there almost every day.
Yeah.
I'm out there like 4 or 5 days a week. Like, it's like, how have I never seen any of you?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because you're very much like, no, you guys can all well and fuck off. Like,
Yeah.
don't you, like, you were like, people were on stage and you're like, this is trash. Like, what are we doing? And I was like, oh my God, Espi, relax.
Well, because it makes me, I'm like angry.
get
I'm like,
so
what are you
mad.
saying? Well, I get pissed too when people are like, because I love comedy.
Yeah.
So I love even like open mics. When I see my friends go out, I'm excited because all my friends work hard. So I'm like, oh, what are they going to say? I like seeing the growth. I hate when people go up and they're just creepy or they're like, clearly need attention. I'm like, this is not what this is for. Like, we're trying to like make a name for ourselves
Yeah,
out
we're
here,
working
and you're
on
being
something.
weird or they're shitting on other comics and they're not even funny. I'm like,
That I
don't do
can't
that.
stand.
I'm like, I've told people to leave my mic if they do something like that. I get
Even if
so
you are
pissed.
funny, it's like that's not what we're all comics in this room. Like
That's what I'm
we're not
like,
doing
have some
crowd work.
respect.
Yeah.
Or like when new guys, it's always new guys. They'll come in and they'll be like, why aren't I going up yet? I'm like, you signed up last, jackass. Like, go sit down. Like, I get so pissed.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, there's a hierarchy to this a bit. If
Well-
I see someone working, or if I know someone has a show or something, they're like, oh, he bumped me. I'm like, yeah, he's been doing comedy for like 6 years.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing I was going to bring up too. It's very interesting because very much like our circle of like sober people and sober comics, comedy itself is very, it can be like if you're here and you're doing the work very similarly to like, if I know, like if someone reaches out to me and says, hey, because I talk about sobriety a lot, whether it's on, I mean, the fucking podcast is called Ex Drinking Buddy. So if people reach out to me and they're like, hey man, like I'm really thinking about getting sober, and then they like actually like go for it, and then if they slip up, I'm like, you know what, man, no problem. Like let's get back on it. Let's keep working. It's the same thing in comedy, I've noticed, where it's like if people come in and they're like, hey, I'm a comic, and you're like, okay, well, let's see. And then you see them at mics all the time and they're constantly writing new stuff, then they can ingratiate themselves very quickly into the environment.
I respect people that are, I'll put up like and then on my show, I would always put up like a newer person that I saw like, oh, this guy's really, he's out every day, or this girl's out every day, like writing. I'm like, okay, even if they're not that funny, I'm like, I can squeeze you in for 6 minutes because I know you're trying and you're going to get it eventually.
Well, and that's because that's what happened to me is I started comedy in 2009 and then I moved to New York and I'm like, all right, I've got my hour like roughly worked out. I've got the podcast and everyone's like, no, it's open mics. Dude. How many followers do you have? No, you're going to open mics. And I was like, no. Like I just don't, I'm bad at, like, I don't like social media, but I'm good at, like, I'm okay. Like I'm pretty good at comedy. Like you guys.
Well, that was
like, fuck off.
I just realized recently too. I was like, that's why I've been doing all the
sketches and stuff, yeah.
and then me and Jay have our podcast, which is we don't know what we're doing at all. But now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to film us saying like doing
Plug it.
Too. I have to play. Oh, the podcast. It's
You
called
never plugged
hashtag
it.
Us Too. Yeah.
You never even brought it
I
up.
know,
didn't even
'cause I
you
didn't-
started a podcast.
Well, we didn't get it out yet because we're dumb. That's another conversation for later. But yeah, so we have a podcast. But I'm like realizing
Hashtag Us
how
Too.
important that is.
What's it about?
We talk about, because she's trans and I'm a lady.
Lady.
And we're both, I mean, she's a lady too. I don't, that sounded horrible. Whatever.
That's at Espi Rivadeneira on all social media.
She's a lady too. Oh my God. I'm going to get canceled. But we talk
only have,
about
like,
stuff
6,000
like
listeners.
that too. Like, we just talk about being trans, being a girl, like in comedy.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Just I don't mean to interject, and the listeners are like, yeah, you do. You always do. But if I can be completely honest with you, those kind of conversations I thoroughly enjoy. There's something I cannot stand about, like if I have a comic on who's different than me, and then we talk about specific things, when people are like, you shouldn't talk about it. It's like if I
Well,
can't
that was the thing,
talk
too.
about these things with this person, then what in the fuck are we doing?
We're being so honest on it. That's what is cool about it.
Yeah.
Because I'll talk about, because like I don't know everything about trans people, and she doesn't know, like, and it's cool because she is like going through the hormonal process, and it's really cool. She can see from like the guy's perspective before, and then the woman's perspective. So it's like, it's just a very neat podcast.
Well, yeah,
where
and
we're
I know
like-
when I've hung out with Jay, she's super like cool. Like she will not make you feel uncomfortable at all.
That's
Even
what
if you
I
say
love
something
about
that's
her.
wildly inappropriate.
Yeah.
She kind of like laughs it off, and she's like, "Well, maybe not that."
But she doesn't make you feel bad, and I
Exactly,
feel like
it's-
she's gonna like try to teach you about, like, sometimes guys do dumb shit to me, and I always remember, like, I remember when I was a kid, I saw some guy like catcalling a girl, and I'm like, why would he do that? And my dad was like, some guys just don't know, they're not raised right. He's like not making an excuse for them, but I like grew up thinking about that, where like, because sometimes guys have been creepy to me at mics, and I don't blow up. I'll try to be like, sometimes if it's like on stage or something, I'll blow up, but then after I'll be like, hey man, I don't want you to feel like you can't come back. I'm like, you just can't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
Like I try to be like, that's not okay.
It's always my favorite when you get off stage and then like a newer person goes up after you, And they're all like, and it's some like broy dude, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna say something about Espi, and that's not gonna
and it's not gonna fly.
well.
But I feel like I'm respected a lot because there've been times where
we all have your back. We're like,
you guys have my back, and then I try to like talk to them like people.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm a comic I'm not just some chick at a mic or whatever. Like I take this very seriously. I'm not here to like. I'm not flirty at all. I'm not like I don't know how to be a girl. But yeah.
Well, and it's, I mean, Tom Segura has that bit about it in one of his specials, but it's like your dad saying some people just aren't ready. Some people suck. Some people suck. And it's interesting because like when we had Ryan Thomas on the show a couple weeks ago now, and I remember we were talking about him doing track at USC, and because I played sports my whole life, like a lot of times, especially if I have black comics on, I get into this discussion because I was raised in an environment around the majority of black men.
Yeah.
Because I played sports and I played football in the South. And so we always get into these conversations, and there's a part of me when I bring up the fact where I'm like, yeah, it's weird. Like we'll all be at the stand, but it's weird because you'll like talking to Ryan. I'm like, you'll go hang out at the table with all the black comics, and then all the white like dude comics hang out over here, and then a lot of the women hang out over here, and it's like it's still segregated, even though we don't think of it like that. But like I see things like that. 'Cause I'm like, why are we not all sitting together?
Yeah.
And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, you probably shouldn't say this. And I'm like, well, if I can't say this to Ryan, who's another comic,
you should be able to, and Ryan's your friend.
Yeah,
too,
and
so it's
Ryan laughs, and he's like, yeah, I of course I notice it. Like we all notice it. Like, but that's just who we end up hanging out with.
That's why I like having friend comics. Because I feel like, especially like Jay, Ryan, you, I can say whatever. I mean, I only hang out with people where I can say whatever I want. And I think that's why I love stand-up comedy so much, because I really push what I can say on stage. Yeah. And I go
and it's
real
not even
dark.
like and I tell people this all the time. When I get on stage, and I'm sure you're the same way because we are similar, but when I get on stage, it's never my intention. I never get on stage thinking, let me make all these people feel like shit.
No, I'm not trying to do that at all.
But it's almost like we would never think to say that because we know we're not doing that. But it's almost like we have to say that because it's like I've gotten on stage and like done bits before where people are like, whoa. And I'm like, okay. Different life experiences. You guys didn't get it how it's funny, like how I think it's funny. We'll move on. But like it's one of those weird things where you have to push it.
You have to. That's
to.
also your life. Like that's what me and Jay have such a dark past, and we've been through a lot of different stuff where that's kind of our podcast. The first episode, I think people are going to think is like super dark.
How many have you recorded?
We've recorded like 6.
Okay.
And a lot of the times we're talking about, no, we don't. We'll put the cover on. But we like talk about rape and stuff, and then we'll just be like laughing. And it's not because we think rape is funny, but we're just like talking about, it's just like our experiences. And it's,
well, that is, if anyone's seen your set, that is your experience.
Hey. So I'm like, but it's cool to talk about so honestly with someone else. Because a lot of people don't even want to like talk about it, and that's
what I was going to bring up. Is there's so many people like in the real world where I will, and I've got family members like this, friends like this, family friends like this, where we'll like I'll go home for something and we'll all be sitting around, and someone will be like, "Oh, Brendan, what's going on with comedy?" I'm like, it's kind of tough because I talk a lot about like addiction and, suicide and depression. So like if the audience, and then like someone will be like, all right, like we don't need to talk about that stuff. And I'm like, oh, so you just don't, you think the world's all like rainbows and gum? Like you just don't talk about it. You just don't talk about anything negative or deep or heavy. I'm like, then what the fuck do you talk about?
But how could you even make that stuff better? Like I think a lot of the problems with like suicide or rape is like no one wants to talk about it, or like even there's like showing signs of something like that having happened or is like going on, and people just avoid it.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like you should be talking about it, and you shouldn't be scared to like, people get so weird about the word, because in my set for a while I was like, maybe I shouldn't say the word. I wrote another joke about how dumb that is. Like that's so stupid that you are like so scared of that word. That's crazy.
Yeah. I find it so fat because those same people that'll be like, all right, let's talk about something else, or like that's enough. They'll be like, oh, did you catch this on some like morning talk show? Did you see that skit? It was pretty funny. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like if we're not going to talk about things that matter or things that are important, then what are we even doing here? Like what the fuck's the point? Because it blows my mind when people like you said, with the rape thing, and then obviously with, you know, my suicide attempt when I was younger, and then like my depression and my self-harm, and like I think it's important to talk about those things. And the way we do comedy is it's important to talk about that stuff on stage because we try to make it funny. And it's very much like, hey, you guys, like even though this stuff is terrible, we can still laugh about it because we have to.
Well, that's the thing is I'm like, if I wasn't funny, I don't think I would have gotten through all that stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying we have to. Like, if I didn't have a sense of humor about all this stuff, I would have been gone a long time ago.
I'm like, I would have been dead by now because there's so much terrible. Life is just hard. I feel like you're only guaranteed bad things happening, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Like that's because there's ends to everything. And so it's like, you have to have a sense of humor, even if you're not a comic. You just have to have a sense of humor. Like my family cracks me up all the time.
Mine too, yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, you have to be able to joke about it because life is terrible.
I talked about this with Mike Rowland because we were talking about like our family sense of humors. And he's like, yeah, my family's, I was like, oh yeah, my family cracks me up. And he's like, yeah, mine too. And then he started talking about, because like his family's real silly and like goofy. And I was like, oh, my like immediate family, like my siblings and stuff. I was like, oh, we're very, very dark. We go the other way with it. But it's all, you know, a matter of perspective.
Right.
But I also think it's interesting because
it's funny because I don't think you're dark. And I know people are like, Brennan and Espi are dark, but I'm like, I just don't, because these are just my
Well, that's the same thing as like when you talk about the rape on stage, I'm never like, oh, this is taboo.
Yeah.
Or this is like I'm like, oh, she's pushing boundaries. I'm like, no, we're storytelling comedy. Like this is something that happened to her.
Yeah.
And now she's talking about it and making it funny.
Yeah.
Like that's, like in my head, it's not dark. It's what we do. Like the whole bit I have about trying to stab myself in the stomach. I tried to work that out forever. And then I was talking to another comic the other day and they're just like, you can't, they're like, you can do the faking paralyzed thing because the way that ends and it's funny. They're like, the stabbing the self thing, though, that's just so far.
But it's true.
But I'm like, but it happened.
Yeah.
And I think there's something in my brain, and I'm not unique. If AA has taught me anything, it's that I'm not unique.
Yeah.
And there's something in my brain that thinks, instead of just calling up my ex and being like, hey, can you drive up to Daytona because I miss you? I thought to myself, I need to liar the shit out of myself in this bathroom. Like that scene when Jim Carrey's like banging his head against the wall. And then I have to try and stab myself in the stomach to say I got jumped. Like, to me, that's hilarious. Like, who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
But then, like, and again, it's subjective. So if you get in front of sheltered audiences, then it's very, I'm sure, because I've told this story before, but I did a show one time at a cigar bar in Jacksonville. And it was kind of like dark and dirty and grungy and like, everything worked. In fact, one of the bits worked so well, the guy up front was like, you're brilliant. That's genius. The very next day, I went to UCF, a very white, very suburban college.
If you go to the white, like, rich people shows, they look very uncomfortable.
Super sheltered. I did the same exact bit, and a girl up front goes, well, it makes you think, but it's not really that funny. And I was like, oh, you guys have never experienced a hardship in your lives.
They don't get it. And I try not to get angry because I did a show. It was like this guy's show. It was in Queens, this like super rich apartment. They had like a huge game room. And I was like, what is this place? And all of the people, like I was up there and they were just like looking at me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And
well,
I'm like,
I told you that happened to me in Brooklyn. I went to do a friend of the show, Max Fine. I went to do his Goon to a Goblin show. And I was like, fucking stage time, my stage time. I got asked to be on this show.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I want to do.
yeah.
And then I got up and I looked out in the audience, all these hot young people from Brooklyn, and I go, looks like we're doing the silly shit. Because, you know, like you read the room, and I'm like, well, I don't want to torpedo the show.
I want to do my stuff.
Yeah.
And I do avoid doing the rape stuff a lot. That's the stuff I want to talk about the most. But sometimes I tried it like a week and a half ago.
At like a show?
At a show, and they were like,
nope.
And I was like, okay. And it's annoying because like some of my friends.
You gotta tell me when you're gonna do stuff like that, because you know I'll come and sit in the back and
be like, ah! But some of my friends were like, oh, you're so likable, so they don't want to hear about that. But I'm like, but it's true, and I am like over it, or else I wouldn't be able to talk about it.
Well, and then you also have the stuff you've been working on now, where it's talking about, I don't want to burn it, but the whole like having the rabbit now and being in a relationship, and how you're like, who the fuck is this person?
Yeah. I have one bit where I'm like, oh, now I have to shower that. Yeah. I'm like, used to have to shower the rape off me, now I have to shower the gay off or whatever. And I'm like, that's not, I don't know if that's going to work at a show, dude, because it's so dark. Yeah, people are like so weird about it.
That's the funny thing too is, and I say it, I've said it a million times, but you don't need everybody. You know, you just need enough to fill a room.
Yeah.
As Kanane once said, and I, echo it all the time, because if I had a nickel for every time a comic, like someone who's just a full-time comic, that is their gig. They are a traveling, touring, headlining comic, has told me, hey man, you should try being a little sillier. If anything, just be a little sillier up front to win the crowd. Because I already have, I get on stage looking the way I look, and there's already so many preconceived notions that people jump to in their heads.
Yeah.
He's misogynistic, he's homophobic, he's transphobic, he's this, he's that. And so, I always address it like off rip with a bit that I have, and I open with the bit, and I think it kind of breaks the tension. It's like, oh, I'm in on the joke as well. I'm very aware of what I look like. But then I try to go right into like jail and addiction and and like people are like, nope. And I remember
you have to ease them. I gotta be, and I think we're both good at being like goofy people.
Yeah.
Like when I'm just with my friends, I'm like an idiot. So I try to bring that into my set more.
I've done that a lot more now.
Yeah.
In the last like 6 months to a year, I was like, fine. That's where I came up with that movie line bit, because I do that all the time in my life.
Yeah. And
then when someone was like, try being sillier. So I tried to write stuff about the gym, and I'm like, this just doesn't, because I go to the gym so much, where I'm like, none of this is funny to me.
Yeah.
Because the way I go to the gym is the same way I drink, is the same way I do comedy. It's so much on a different level than what normal people do.
I don't think you have to do stuff like that. I'm just trying to be like more goofy, I think. Just people have noticed
with your
my scream, because I'm kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I try to go up and like I think I'm sort of naturally awkward at times. And
yeah, me too.
So I'm like, I try to play into that a bit. I go up and I'm a little weird, because I think people see me and they think like, oh, a cute Hispanic girl. And then I start acting a little strange, and they're like, wait, this isn't what we thought. And then my voice, too, is like everyone's like...
Your voice is a big thing.
Because they're like a small person. My whole life, I thought my voice was just normal, and it was funny because other girls would talk, and I'm like, their voice is so high. Because my mom and my sister sound like me.
Oh, really?
And they're tiny. They're like little women. And so I'm like... I didn't know. Like, I remember an ex-boyfriend was like, your voice is like should belong to a much bigger woman. Like he was like, it's so and a lot of Zoom shows I would meet the people in real life. They're like, we thought you were like bigger.
It's funny you say that, because I saw your doppelganger the other day, but it was a goth version of you. But it was this very petite, younger Hispanic girl.
Yeah.
But she had like piercings here and like the dermals and the whole thing. I go, wow, she looks a lot like Espi. And then she started talking. I go, oh my gosh, she sounds just like Espi.
Did she sound like me?
I'd never seen her before in my life. Yeah.
Wow.
She was talking to her friend as they were walking by, and I was like, holy shit.
For real? Oh, dude.
Yeah. I almost pulled my phone out and took a picture and sent it to you, but I was like, that would be weird. But
I wish I could meet that girl. That's crazy.
But it's like you said, because it's normally like a much higher octave.
Well, I did an audition one time, and I didn't know how auditions worked at all. And I show up, and it's all these girls that look like me. And I'm like trying to talk to them, because I didn't know actors very competitive, and their voices were so high, and they were cunts. They didn't want to talk to me at all. But I was like,
actors.
Oh, that's weird. Like, I was like, their voices are so high.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you get on stage, because that's got to be a jolt for the audience when you pick up the mic and you're like, hey.
Well, I played into my voice just sounds funny, so I try to say things like I talk kind of slower, and I sound, I don't know. I'm trying to like play around with my voice, and I like doing voices and stuff. So I'm trying to just be like more goofy. And then if I'm with like Jake and Eli and TJ, I'm just saying dumb stuff and being like retarded. So I'm just trying to do more of that on stage, and then do my heavy stuff too.
Because that was the thing and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. But so many people were like, off stage, you're like this big goofball, but then you get on stage and it's like dark.
So I'm trying to incorporate both.
So now I'm doing both, and it's hard though. Because in New York, it's a lot of 5 to 7 minute sets. So it's hard because it's like, okay, so I'm going to open on like something light and goofy and then like to try to do 4 minutes of hard stuff, or am I gonna do 4 minutes of light and goofy and then only like 2 minutes of like stuff I want to do?
That's what I mean is it's
it
like
turns
our
into this
stuff
whole thing.
would do better with like 20 to 30 minutes, obviously.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm doing the
hard.
one-man show.
Yeah.
Well, and because another big thing too was because I heard it so many times from so many different because I did a show once, and I think I talked about this before, so forgive me, listeners, but I did a show one time where I opened the way I always open, and it was okay, and then I went right into dark, and then that wasn't working, so I like switched up and like I do have some bits that are worked on that are good about the gym and stuff, so then I switched into that, and then I ended the same way I always do with that Scar story, and then when I got off stage, the host was like, hey man, you should do a lot more of that sillier stuff. Like you saw how you got him back at the end, like in the middle with that silly stuff. And I was like, yeah. He goes, why didn't you open with that? Like they could have been on your side the whole time. And that's when it kind of hit me where I was like, oh, this is actually, because I've heard it before, but I'm like, fuck off. Like I did well.
Well, I wonder if there's a way to make your dark bits more silly, because some of the rape jokes I have are so like stupid.
Yeah.
Where the one I'm talking about, the kid at school being like, well, somebody's not handling their rape well. Like people think that's very funny.
Yeah, I think if I found a softer way to approach certain subject, I'm sure it would work, but you know.
That's what makes stand-up so cool, though. It's like a puzzle. You're always like,
well, there's
how do
also
I get
people
this?
where, because for the longest time, I thought, okay, maybe some of this stuff maybe I'm just not funny. Because, you know, when you hang out with a lot of comics, one thing we don't do enough of, like we'll always do like the dap, like, hey, good set. But a lot of times we're not genuine about it, and that's on all of us. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important to be like, because especially at our level in New York, it's very easy for people, to have doubts constantly.
Of course, yeah.
To be like, what, did I make a mistake? So I know I need to get better at when people have, like, and I've been trying to do that in the last 6 months. If people have a funny set, I will go up to them after them and be like, hey, that bit about X, Y, and Z, dude, that really killed me. That was great. To like
that makes a big difference, because when people have came up to me and told me a specific bit, I'm like, oh, okay. Because we all have, it doesn't matter how good you are. Everybody gets self-conscious about that. And then it's hard as like the months and the years go by. You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah. I mean, I had that a couple of months ago where I was in my house and I was like, this is like, things are going like this isn't I made a mistake. And like I wandered around Manhattan. Like I took the train down to the cellar. I didn't run into anybody I knew. And I passed by TJ at the Grizzly Pear and talked to him for a minute. And then I saw Julia Kastner for a second. And then I just started walking. I ended up like down by the World Trade Center, like from the McDougal Street. Because I was just like, I've made a horrible mistake. Like this is terrible. But thank you. I appreciate that. But I also think it's interesting because like I started doing stuff with Burner on social media, on TikTok. And some of the stuff that she asks, because I was raised around women, so I actually had bits lined up for some of the questions she asked. And it was totally happenstance. She just asked something and I had a bit for it. And then when she put those up online,
and people think, oh, that's so funny.
People were like, oh, that's hilarious. Like my whole life I thought I was a quirky Gemini, but turns out science calls it bipolar 2. That's a bit that I've had.
That's kind of like what you just said before, though, about finding your like crowd.
Yeah.
You know, and our social media, we're not doing well on. I mean, yours is probably getting better because the pod and everything, but that's why I kind of changed my focus where I still hang out, because for a while I was like, I'm just going to hang out. And I hate jealousy. I hate getting like, I'm like, how is this person? I'm like, they have way more followers than Espi. And I was like, I got to shift my focus now. And I was like, and I can make it fun. I love making sketches.
Yeah, I
love that. And I got to get me and Jay's pod out. I'm going home today, I'm just going to
bust
it out there because I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 3 podcasts now.
Yeah.
So I've got this one, which is like my pod. This is my.
I
baby.
love this podcast.
This is my precious little baby. But then I also do a sports podcast, which I don't talk about a lot on this one because it's me and my buddy Joe Dorville, who's a friend of the show, been on here a couple times. But we do a sports podcast through a new low network called Cheers from the Press Box. And then I'm starting a podcast with 2 other comics in New York. We're going to start recording next week, and then we're going to start dropping those in January. But it's interesting to me because I'm just like between all the podcasting and then we have so much tape. It's like game tape. Like we have so many sets that we filmed for no reason other than to just watch it. I've got hours of material.
Yeah.
Maybe an hour of material on my laptop. And I'm just like, I just need to go through, because I was talking to a couple other comics. Like Dan Lamort's like doubled his following because he started really committing to putting up clips and
That's
stuff.
everybody that's gotten their following up.
We were just talking about Ella
posting.
Orlando. When I
Yeah.
moved here, she had she had a few thousand followers, and I was like, damn, she's obviously doing her thing. And now she's up to like 100,000.
That's what I
And it's like,
noticed. I was
Troy
like, I gotta
Bond. It's like, what
post.
the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we see all these people like hitting Jamie Wolf, same thing. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, like we have the raw materials. We just need to shift our focus and actually
that was
do
what,
it.
because I was like, I just want to write every day.
That's how I
for
was.
hours. And then I was
Just
like,
go hang. Like, fuck social media.
I was like, maybe I have to get up an hour earlier and then work on this stuff and learn the editing, because I was so resistant for so long. Because I was like,
So
no, I'm a
long.
good comic. I'm gonna make it off comedy. And then I was like, and I saw one interview with Ali Sadiq where he's like, you want to get good at comedy, just do comedy. And then I was like, I think he might be wrong. Where
Yeah.
he was like, because I'm like, I feel like I have to do other stuff.
Well, and it's easy too now for some of these older comics. Well, not that Ali Sadiq is old, but you know what I mean? Like older, like
Right,
more
old
established
guard.
comics to be like, yeah, just be fucking great at comedy. It's like, okay, I hear you say that, but it's different now.
It is very different.
Everyone has social media. And like Rogan talks about it, because I listen to Rogan when he has other comics on, because I love the hang. And he'll have other comics on, and he's like, yeah, I mean, some people post clips. He's like, I don't do that. I don't see what the benefit is. And I go, you have 16 million podcast listeners, man. Like
you don't need to. That's your thing. That
you
was
could go dark for a month, and then literally you could throw up one post about a show and it'd sell out in seconds.
Right.
Like, you don't have to do that. You know who I just heard on Two Bears, One Cave with Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer?
who?
Ariel. The New York comic that we've seen at open mics
Yeah.
that did the show at Uncle Vinny's and got the beer thrown
Yeah,
at
yeah.
her. Like, we know her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, not, I don't know her personally, but I've seen her at mics before, because I remember when I was watching the clip, I was like, I know that
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, like, because she posted that, and it was horrific what happened,
Yeah.
because like they could have hit her in the face, and a full beer's not light.
I know.
Like that. But the way she handled it, like such a pro, and then boom. And all of a sudden, it's like now, like these comics that, and it's insane to me. So it's like, we have to be better at
We have to
doing
be
it.
doing that. And I think it's also good too. Like, I get discouraged sometimes, but I'm like, okay, you're a good comic. Keep working on that and this. And eventually it's all going to meet up at the right time. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, it's not like we've been wasting our time.
No. Well, and
So-
that's the thing too. It always makes me laugh when people go up at the pair and they're like, God, this is horrible.
I
Like,
love
and they
the
just,
pair.
me too. And they just talk about how horrific
Yeah.
it is the whole time. And I am always just in the back of the room, like, kind of have a smile on my face. I go, this is an open mic where it's just a bunch of comics hanging out. Imagine this kind of silence when you're at a show that you're getting paid to do, like a booked show. Like in Oklahoma City, when the Thunder game, they refused to turn off at this bar because it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you have to do 30. That's fucking so much
The pair
worse.
makes you tough as hell.
But that's
I can
yeah.
be like in silence
just chilling.
and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then I've been in silence and then gotten them back. But the pair like builds your confidence, because people are like, I don't even see the point of doing that, Mike. And I'm like, it makes you tough.
But that's to go back on your point of all these little things that we've been doing for years, they end up actually helping us in the end, which we don't even know it at the time. But like there's a mic in Daytona, Tiernanog, Irish pub, very similar to the pair vibe. It's a little more debaucherous, like because everyone's drinking and having a good time, but very similar to that. Like it's gonna be mostly comics, and they've all heard your material before. So unless you go off on an angry riff about something, you're not getting too many laughs.
Right.
And it's so funny to me because it's like I can do those mics or those shows with no abandon. Like I don't give a shit. But I've only developed that from years of doing stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
So it's so interesting when we see those young kids get up there and they're like, "This is terrible. There's not even anybody here. Oh,
But I'm
you
like,
guys
if
aren't
you
even
love
laughing."
you love comedy so much, go up and tell your jokes.
Yeah.
Like, stop complaining. Use your time is so valuable. Especially that's
Yeah.
what I learned coming to New York City. I'm like, people aren't just gonna give you time.
Yeah.
And people tell me, they're like, you're one of the most booked people. I'm like, I take all of it as like, I'm very grateful
Yeah.
for all the spots I get. Especially when I stopped barking and my spots went down a little bit. I was like, oh, like time here is very valuable.
Let's talk about that because you stopped barking when you got back from Edinburgh, and we've got about 12 minutes
Okay.
left. So I want to talk about Edinburgh and kind of what happened. So you went there for the play.
Yeah.
Plug the play. I forget.
It was
That's
called
My
Hey,
Wife.
That's My Wife. I think it's on YouTube.
It is on YouTube.
Did you see it?
No, but I've been told Ryan O'Toole, I think, told me it was on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
And Caroline Haynes, that destroyer of spirits.
I love Caroline.
Me too.
Yeah.
She
Because you
crushed me.
roasted. Yeah.
No, she roasted me. I did nothing. I sat there and smiled. The whole time I'm just thinking, don't cry, because then they win. Don't cry, 'cause then they win. But so you go to Edinburgh for the show.
Yeah.
Hey, That's My Wife. Check it out on YouTube. And then you got back, and it was interesting because when you and Ryan and Caroline and everybody came back, I was so excited. I was like, the gang is back together. But then you kind of weren't hosting as many mics as you were before. You weren't barking anymore. So kind of what happened between Edinburgh, because I know we talked to O'Toole about it, between Edinburgh and then coming back and like kind of the shift that you made?
I was barking so much before Edinburgh. And then in Edinburgh is not like easy. Like people say, they're like, oh, it's amazing. It's a lot of work. You're going to be barking there too. But before I left for Scotland, I was like, I would be barking and then I would see people being like, okay, I'm going to go hang out at this club or whatever. And I'm like, fuck, I have to bark like 2 hours. And then barking is such a pain it's cold. It rains on you. There's homeless people coming at you. There's drunk idiots coming at you. You're out there for 2 hours. Sometimes you only get like 6 minutes out of it. And then this didn't really bother me as much, but some people look down on barking, which I think is dumb.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
Stage time
get
is
your
stage
stage time. But a lot of people were telling, and then comics ahead of me were like, you shouldn't be doing that as much. And then what happened, I kind of agreed with them because I'm a good barker. So other people started asking me to bark instead of just doing spots. And I was like, no, I do regular spots.
So that's the big thing about why I don't bark in New York was because I was like, if I'm any good at it, which I probably will be, then it's just going to turn into it's the same thing with the bringer shows. Where it's like, hey,
I don't do bringers.
You can tell me I can have a spot and I will do everything in my power to promote the show.
Right.
And I will try to get as many people there as I can because I don't want to perform to an empty room. And I like performing to my friends because they get me. So they get my comedy. But don't fucking tell me I have to bring people.
So that was why I was like, I want to shift and I want to try and I knew I had to do something with my social media or something. Because now I have more time to do the sketches or try and work on my pod or whatever. And I'm trying to get into voiceover work. So I set up, since I've been back, I've been like building this studio in my apartment.
Yeah. I saw you got all
my acoustic panels. Oh my God, that was a nightmare. But anyways, so I have that going on.
Well, what happened
in Scotland?
Well, what happened to get you to that point? Was it just other comics telling you should do less of this, or was it something in Scotland getting all the stage time and you're like, I got to do something different?
I got a ton of stage time in Scotland without barking. Mm-hmm. I did for some people just to make some extra cash, and I would only bark. I was like, I made people pay me a lot to bark because I'm a good barker. Yeah. And everyone was barking. So it was very competitive. And I was like, I got this. So
your worth.
I was like, you pay me a lot. So I was in Scotland getting a lot of stage time, seeing some of my friends like Michael Good quit barking, and then all of a sudden he's like in a New York comedy club. He's in at all these different, I'm like, I gotta do something else and hang out in different places. And like, so that's been my focus right now, is just trying to get into different clubs, trying to find daytime work at home. Cause I sometimes too, I would just get sick from being like out in the elements. Yeah. And I was like, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, just being outside for hours at a time at night when it's 40 degrees.
And there's creeps outside, and I was like, I just couldn't. It kind of like broke me down. And I'll do it once in a while, like for Eli Hobbit, he's my friend, but I'm not doing it. I was doing it every day, like twice a day.
That's insane.
It was like 4 hours on the street. I was like, I feel like a homeless person.
Yeah.
But I was like, I just had to shift my focus because I'm like, I want my social media. That's kind of my focus right now, as well as doing shows. But I got past, I'm in with Greenwich and Broadway, so I'm like, okay, so I'm in. That's what I mean. And I don't have to bark for those shows, so they just hit me up. So I'm in. The Pair still gives me spots, and then I'm gonna have my own show at the New Pair starting this weekend. Yeah, so I'm like,
check it out, the new Grizzly Pair in Midtown.
Yeah.
Gotta check that show out.
So I'm like, okay, I don't have to really bark as much.
Well, that's awesome too, because it was It was something that I saw when you guys came back where everyone was like, it's almost like you went there, got all these experience points, and then kind of like leveled up. Because even O'Toole and everybody, when they got back, it was kind of like, oh, like they're obviously the same people, but there's like something different about what's happening. And I think that goes a long way with going over there and experiencing like something crazy like that and then coming back and being like, all right, we got to figure this out. The social media thing is what blows my mind because for so long, because I'm older than you and I'm older than most of the comics like at our level in the scene, because for so long I looked at it like, this is stupid.
That's what I thought too.
Like, why are you putting out material that's not done yet? People pay to come see you at a show and then you're just going to do the same shit that you have online. Like, this is so fucking stupid. And then I see all these people blow up and I'm like, oh, this isn't so stupid. Like
That's what I was like, I'm going to have to play the game a bit because I'm like, at the end of the day, it's a job and sometimes you do stuff you don't want to for your job. And I just didn't want to lose my love for it because I was getting very frustrated. I think probably since I came back from Scotland, I had a little dip where I felt sort of depressed, trying to figure out because I'm like, I quit barking. I'm like, how am I going to make money? What am I going to do? Like, there's so much change happening in my life right now. And it's sort of starting to stabilize. I adopted a child. I love her. I'm gonna make her. I put her to work in my videos too.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I see her in some of them.
Yeah, I'm like, you're gonna.
That Espi soaps and suds. That's a good one.
Like with me and Jake. Yeah, that one was good.
We got to get you a lab mic, little lap mic.
Oh, for my. Yeah, I need one of those.
We're gonna amp up this sketch thing. You're gonna be the next Gillian Keeves.
I got a ring light yesterday.
We're making shit happen.
I'm making it happen. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This was a lot of fun.
I love this podcast.
Yeah, I kind of took a little bit of a different. And I told you this, but I'll let the listeners know. I really wanted to have you on just because with everything going on lately, and our kind of two different ways of approaching sobriety, it's always nice to have people on because I talk about AA a lot, but I know a lot of my listeners who are sober, like, no, like you don't have, like, that's not the only way to do things. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing some insight about mushroom trips and smoking weed.
Yeah. Don't smoke weed.
Plug everything one more time.
All
Plug
of
the
my
podcast.
handle. My podcast is called #us2 with Jay Elliott. And my Instagram, I'll post everything. Usually from there is Espi Rivadeneira. Same with my Twitter, Facebook. And putting out a lot of sketches.
When is ours going up?
I'll put it up in probably tomorrow or the day after the latest.
There's a lot of editing on that one.
I know.
We did a lot of different cuts.
I know.
It's gonna be fun.
I got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. At Brennan T. Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. One-man show is in January. Check that out, where I'll be able to talk about all my deepest, darkest things, because it's not a comedy show. It's a one-man show. And then subscribe on Patreon and get your Ex Drinking Buddy merch. We'll talk to y'all next week.